Now, this is a game you've probably never heard of. Fountains. Now, I got the privilege of getting a review copy for this game, and I was really super excited to be able to review it. If you're into small indie games, I think I found the one for you. If any instructions are in order, my name's Shadow, and welcome to Shadow Gaming. It literally gets worse every time I do something like that. Let's get into the review. So the game is made by basically one person. His name's John Pewell. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Please do not crucify me if you watch this video. I do try. When I was doing a little bit of development and kind of some research into the game, I think it's taken around 5 years to get it to this state, which is a crazy amount of time. And I think we should all give him a bit of kudos for that. So let's give him a little round of applause. Nice. That was good. I'd also just like to say thank you for approving my request to kind of review this game for you. It was an absolute fucking pleasure. Now, graphically, obviously, it's a very easy game to run. You're not really going to have any issues playing this. I mean, you could tweak a couple of settings. There isn't really much to it. It sort of reminds me of a 2D scroller, and I really enjoyed it. I like the color palette. I think it's emphasizes a lot about the darker tones. I think he's done a good job kind of picking out those kind of washed out colors to kind of add to the darkness of the theme to the game. Kind of just helps you get a little bit more immersed into something that's 2D. The music is great. Basically, it changes from the environment you're in. He's done a really good job of picking that as well. I felt that, it did really match what you were doing and where you were in the game. There's many different biomes and things like that. So, he did a really good job of matching those to where you are, which does also help with immersion, which is fantastic. I also kind of like the intro music as well, and I think he's done a good job. Whether he's created it himself, I can imagine he has always imported it. But, it was either a good choice or well made, definitely. He's also done a pretty decent job at sound design. Everything kind of matched what was happening on screen. Clanking of swords on walls and things like that. There's obviously an attack sound and things like that. So it's pretty good. I'm glad that he's added these little details because sometimes they can get missed even by big developers. So it's good that it's in the game. But enough about that technical stuff. Let's get into the gameplay. Now, I don't normally play this game. I'm not particularly Souls like game player. I mean, if you haven't seen my Elden Ring video, you should probably go and watch that right now. Please, please go and watch it. YouTube doesn't like it, so we'll push it out. Watch it. But to be fair, the gameplay is easy to pick up. I feel like it's one of those games that it's quite easy to pick up, but it can be quite difficult to master, especially hitting some of those later bosses. I struggled anyway, just because I'm a shit gamer. But I feel like probably Souls players, regular Soul players, I think you'll absolutely have a little bit of an intrigue with this game. I think that he's done a good job with the combat system. I played it on controller. I didn't play it with mouse and keyboard. I think it definitely plays quite well on the controller. So if you do have a controller, I definitely recommend playing it on that. The game is obviously very unforgiving and at times quite unfair. I felt like some of the bosses, like you've nailed their rhythm, you're at it for like the sixth time, and then it literally just comes out with something new, and then you're dead again. And the amount of times I've just wanted to launch my controller out of that fucking window oof, was really tempting. But to be honest, it's quite fun and quite addicting as well. Even if I did die a lot, I felt myself wanting to come back and try and beat in those boss. But I guess that is obviously to do with the game, but I also feel like, the genre kind of makes you go back to see if you can get that achievement, that reward for killing that boss when you've worked essentially hard to defeat it. There's a good amount of enemy types with different move sets and things like that, kind of keep you on your toes throughout the game. He's kind of added a lot of different mechanics to the enemies, and they'll all do different things. So, you may come across one enemy type and then find out another one that's similar, but they don't have the same move set. So it's definitely a learning curve throughout, which is good. Keeps you on your toes. Now, I really like the water mechanic. So essentially, he's added a mechanic where the Fountain of Youth, obviously in the Arthur lore, essentially is a water source that can heal you. It's quite good. So essentially, it's quite inventive, actually, to be honest. Especially considering the lore and the story. Basically, there's fountains of youths in the game. This is where you rest and you can level up. Every time, obviously, you use the fountain to level up or heal, you essentially reset the map. So I think everything else respawns, but I think that's just a common occurrence for all Souls-like games. You can also buy water to heal in combat. So if you're in a boss battle, you can literally just go and buy it for coins that obviously are dropped by enemies. Water is also sometimes dropped by enemies as well. So you can kind of manage that resource pool a bit. And, especially when it comes against those bosses, at least you have that little bit of backup for slightly newer players, which is good. And I feel like it just adds a little bit more depth to, a game this size. I think the map's pretty cool. I quite like the bosses. There was a couple of different bosses. There's like smaller ones, and then there's obviously bigger ones with their own move sets and things. And I had a lot of fun trying to defeat some of them. I felt like some of them were a bit OP, so if you're a newer player like me to this genre, it might feel like it's a little bit too difficult at some stages. But you can always go around the map. That's the good thing about it. You can go around the map. It's open. You can essentially go and get better gear and come back. It's not the end of the world, but it may slow down your progress a bit. And I feel like the game needs to kind of pick which direction it wants to go in, because with it being an open game, I felt like you were still kind of pushed down a certain path just because of the enemy types and how difficult they were. So it essentially made you go down a path to find better gear and things. I do like that about the game. It should be open and you can, explore, and there's lots of different secrets and chests and things like that. But I also feel like if you're going to be an open game, be an open game. Allow people to go anywhere. Don't have these kind of like not invisible walls, but deterrences to hit certain areas just because you don't want them to be there yet. So that's the only gripe I've got with this game is pick that direction, and if you can nail down one or at least tweak it so you can essentially go anywhere on the map, you're not kind of deterred from certain areas, I think would be a big, big positive. You are rewarded with kind of exploring the map, which is good. I found lots of little nooks and crannies to go and delve in and explore. There's plenty around the map that you can kind of go, oh, I didn't know that was there the first time around. I think there's a little bit of replayability if you have missed things. But obviously, you have that kind of message system, which obviously you have it in Elden Ring. I think you have it in Dark Souls as well, which is, I really like it. It helps players go, oh, look, there's a dog there, and you're gonna go there and go, oh look, there's a message there. Oh, there's a dog coming up. Is there? Okay, I need to be careful. So I do like that aspect of it. You can leave messages, silly messages, or just like you know actual ones that help people get past certain levels and things. I do really like that kind of system. You will probably get about 10 to 15 hours of gameplay. Maybe slightly more if you explore everything, every kind of nook and cranny it's got. Uh, Not much more than that. I don't know if he's going to add like some DLC or, he's going to expand on it and give you, I don't know, a new area to explore and things like that. It's possible. I'll see what he's up to. We'll see what he does in the future. But the big question is it worth your money? So the cost for it here in the UK is £13.49. So about 13.50 Great British pounds. So obviously translate into your currency. For an indie game, that's not bad price for an indie game, especially of this size. I felt like it's a little bit too high. I feel like the £10 mark is probably better off, just because of how long it could take some people, especially more experienced people. I think £10 is that benchmark for that. I think 13.50 is a little bit too much for some of the older and more aggressive Souls-like players. But you're definitely going to get some value out of it. Like I said, you could go back and you might miss things, and there's different like secrets and things you can look at. So there is definitely replayability, but I don't think it's £13.50 worth of replayability. It's definitely worth picking up if you're, an indie game supporter and want to support smaller developers like John, and give him the support to be able to create new things. He has done a really good job considering it's taken 5 years to get to the state, so it's definitely worth the money on that aspect. But if you're looking for a game that's got tons and tons of hours, this definitely isn't the game for you. But it's definitely worth a play. I would definitely spend the price tag on it. I felt like I got I played it for about 15 hours, and I haven't actually completed it yet just because of how bad I am and beating the bosses and stuff. But to be honest, I think that's probably the hit for how much time you could get out of it anyway. But yeah, all in all, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the review copy for that game. Really, really enjoyed it. I'm probably going to go back to it once I finish this review anyway, just because I want to see if I can actually get to the end. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the review. If you would like to give a subscribe and a little tickle on the like button, that'd be fantastic. Also, comment down below if you're into indie games or what kind of indie games would you like me to review next. There's lots coming up. I've got still a lot booked in for review games, and I'm really looking forward to getting some into them. So, see you on the next one. Shadow